Pete Carroll is one of the most successful coaches in the history of college football. He led the USC Trojans to 7 Pac-10 titles, 2 AP national titles, and a 97-19 record. Now, he's hoping to conquer a challenge from his past, coaching in the NFL. He's utilizing a philosophy outlined in a new book, Win Forever. Coach Pete Carroll, good morning. Thanks so much for being here, one of my favorite people of all time.
Good to be here. Nice to see an alum.
It's such an honor to have you here. We're going to start with a tough question because I know you like the challenge. Win forever, USC not in a situation where they can win national championships the next 2 years because of sanctions that have been imposed, because of the Reggie Bush scandal. Reggie Bush, of course, a hometown guy. This book is all about leadership lessons learned. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from that whole situation?
Well, the lesson is to try to see the future. Try to expand your ability to see how see things coming. We missed this one. We didn't see it happen, and we needed a wider network of information coming in because the issue came from so far outside of the university setting and all from one individual person. So, you just try to expand and keep anticipating what could go and all of that. I think having been put in the situation again, our awareness would be, more so keened, to maybe the changes that we didn't, see at the time. So it would have been difficult to see, but I wish we would have been able to do that because we feel a responsibility for it.
And speaking of that responsibility, there's some SC fans who say you knew that this was coming, you knew the sanctions were coming, and then you went to the NFL. Now SC is having to deal with it. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that because that's not the case at all. I had a couple chances over the years that people thought like every year, but it wasn't, to take a look at NFL opportunities, and nothing was ever even close to measuring up. I never even got serious about any of it. But this one came along out of nowhere from Seattle, really started with Paul Allen, a tremendous owner, one that has a history and you know who he is and what he's all about, from Todd Lewicki, their CEO, and they presented an opportunity to take our approach, our philosophy, our style, everything that was just at base home, for us, to the NFL in a situation that's on the West Coast, that's got a great stadium and got a great crowd, hasn't been winning, it's got an experienced quarterback. I mean, I just started stacking it up, and it was just an extraordinary opportunity that never matched up to anything I had heard before. It had nothing to do with what was going on at USC. I loved my time at USC. I hated having to make a decision to transition out of there because of the relationships and the friends and the accomplishments and everything. It had nothing to do with anything there. It was just being a competitor on the most competitive stage you can get on. This is the challenge of a lifetime, to do this in the most difficult of environments, and I couldn't turn it down. And so
you said nothing to do with it?
Nothing.
The sanctions had nothing to do with it?
Absolutely nothing.
Book, you talk a lot about John Wooden. One of my favorite experiences that I ever had at USC was my freshman year. I was sitting and had the opportunity to talk with John Wooden about leadership, and then you came up, and I had the opportunity to watch the two of you interact and talk about leadership together. And you talked so much about how important it was to be positive, how important it was to talk to each individual player differently, and thinking long terms in terms of leadership philosophy. What were the lessons most important to you that he taught you, and how did it impact kind of your overall philosophy?
Well, he captured me and inspired me well before I ever met him. I was reading his book, and I chronicled this in really at the beginning of Win Forever, that I knew that he had tremendous success in his background. I'm reading his blue book, and I get to the point where it said in his 16th year he wins his first national championship, and I slammed the book shut. I knew what the story was. Mm-hmm. He had won everything from that point forward, and what it hit me was that he had such a unique style and philosophy and approach. Once he nailed it and got it exactly right, nobody could beat him. He was unstoppable. 10 out of 12 years national champs, 80-something wins in a row, all that stuff. And what it meant to me is I needed to get my act together. So he inspired me well before I ever knew him. After going to USC, when we got to meet him in the springtime as he'd come to campus and visit with him on a regular basis, there was a chance, like you had, I had a chance to visit with him as well. I asked him a question. I said, "Coach, how much do you change your philosophy from year to year?" And he looked at me like I was a little kid, didn't know nothing, I felt like this tall, He said, "Coach, you don't change your philosophy. Mm-hmm. Your philosophy is your core beliefs. You have to stick to that. The players change from year to year. Your philosophy doesn't change." Well, that's exactly right. That's what we have. And so as I go from USC to Seattle, and people keep asking, "What are you going to do differently?" I'm doing the philosophy A to Z, and because that's what we believe in. That's what we've created as our guidelines to making a winning program come together.
What is the philosophy exactly?
It starts with a simple thought. We want to do things better than it's ever been done before in everything we do. We endeavor to compete at everything, to find a competitive edge in every aspect of our program so that we can stay ahead and always stay on point. The central theme in the program becomes competition. We build everything around that, the way we prepare, the way we practice, the way we study, the way we eat, sleep, drink, everything. And so what backs that up is a real clear concept about performance. We want to help our players become the very best they can be. To do that, we've got to communicate with them. We've got to figure out what they're all about. We've got to teach them in a manner that they can accept the information. So we got to learn the learners, and there's just so much that goes into it. To make it really come together, practice has to be everything, because that's where we make our whole program. And so all of those emphases come out of, goes back to the baseline of doing things better than it's ever been done before, and we're driven to find a way to stay ahead of the opponents so we can leave them in the dust, hopefully, by the way we perform and prepare.
And how do you motivate people, not necessarily in football, because this book is also can be applied to life, who maybe have business goals or maybe can't reach a national championship? Obviously, USC can't reach a national championship this year, maybe aren't in that position, but have an opportunity to do something great. How do you set those goals?
I think everybody feels stuck now and then, whether it's in your job or in your relationships or your personal growth, and you feel like you just can't get moving. Well, here's the formula that we utilize. We help individuals, whether they're coaches or players or guys in business or people working for you, to come to a vision of what they want to become, and really get specific about this so that you can really feel the essence of what the vision is, and then keep them diligently in connection with that vision until they create it. We go back to 2005 when we were playing in the national championship game against Oklahoma. It's the night before the game, and I'm trying to figure out something I can tell these guys. What can I possibly tell them to finish off the preparation and keep them fired up and pumped up about the game? And at the last minute, I decided to tell them exactly what had happened in the previous 5 years, that we had set in motion a thought that we were going to do things better than it's ever been done before. And here we were at the precipice of the greatest college game you could ever have. They talk about the game of the century, and we knew we were going to win the football game. I was hoping, but we knew we were going to win the game. And I wanted to solidify with the guys that we had created a vision. We had diligently stayed in connection with it, and we absolutely created it. Not so that we could win the game, but so that they could take that into the rest of their lives. There's one other aspect of it. I work in the community with our foundation to Better LA. Kids in the community think they're going to die or they're going to go to jail. They're in a hopeless state. That's their vision, and that's exactly what they are going to do. And it's guaranteed. Until that vision can get adjusted, they don't have a chance. The work that we do on the football field or with coaches or with people in business is exactly the same emphasis that we work with the kids in the community, to give them a vision that they can aspire to, and then coach them to stay in connection with it so that they can stay in contact with that thought until they start to see the things come together. They see the reason for the hope. They start to feel the advances, and then they take charge of their world and become empowered with it. So it is an idea and a concept that overlays more than just football.
And great having you here, and inspiring to be around you again. Thank you so much for being here and all the good work.
It's great to see our graduates going on and doing a good job.